How's it going, guys? So, what I'm about to tell you, what I'm about to talk to you guys about today, is, I've spoken about this before. What I notice is that anytime anybody brings it up, or anybody uses this analogy, people get very, very upset. But frankly, guys, I don't really care. I'll tell you why I don't care. Because today was kind of a landmark day for this context, for this analogy. I'm starting to get the impression, or I've already gotten the impression, frankly. Just one second, let me get a bottle of water here. I've already gotten the impression that, it seems to me, and I'm speaking as a former Soviet citizen, I'm speaking as a, my parents were dissidents. I'm speaking as a person whose grandfather, whom I've never met, had his entire family, first family, liquidated. It wasn't even by the Germans, it was by the Ukrainians, Polizei, the ones who ran ahead of the Germans. So I'm speaking in that kind of capacity to you guys, just so there's no misunderstandings about where I'm coming from here, okay? And I'm also speaking as a person who was obsessed his entire life, since I can remember, with learning about, watching about World War II. And not only that, but basically watching everything about the you-know-what, the modern-day Amalek. I'm not going to say their name, because I don't want to get banned. I was watching any kind of special I can get my hands on, any kind of History Channel, Discovery Channel, anything regarding these people. And we're talking about the origins. We're talking about the things that led up to their eventual atrocity that they committed. The things that led up to it, because as we know, guys, again, what it seems to me is that people are lacking in basic education about this event. Basic education in the sense of how the heck did this even happen? What led up to it? How were people inspired to turn on their neighbors? How were people inspired by one man to just be in some sort of trance, in a sort of hypnosis? My friends, again, this didn't happen overnight. It took 9 or 10 years. It actually took longer than that. But if we're starting from the point of when a guy by the name of Gerbil, Hamster, started doing his work, his propaganda work. This was a 9-year long game being played, my friends. A 9-year or 10-year or 11-year long game. The end of the game, as we know, that's what it was, right? This is what everybody gets offended about, thinking the comparison is about that. My friends, the comparison is not about that. The comparison is about the lead up, the conditions, the behavior, the hypnosis. Okay? I'm going to read to you from this is an account of an Israeli person. Here you go. Who had family who perished in this atrocity, right? This is what they write. Here you go. Just one second, let me get to it. We're Jewish. We had family murdered by the Amalek. We've spoken to atrocity survivors. It didn't start with the camps. It started with propaganda, scaremongering, scapegoating, segregation. The comparisons to 1930s Amalek are valid. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Okay, my friends. So, now that we understand that, for those of you who actually do understand that, if you don't understand that, I can't really help you. Okay? We're going to read something from it's a very, very interesting, I guess, blog post, and there's a video attached, which I'm not going to play. It's like an hour long. It's an interview, or it's a Zoom call between Rainer Fulmick. Rainer Fulmick is the lawyer in Germany who's been basically covering a lot of this stuff and doing a lot of these interviews with different doctors and different virologists and different other people, psychologists, lawyers, whomever. And he interviews a certain Professor Matthias Desmet. Professor Matthias Desmet is in Ghent University. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ghent. This is, I think, Belgium, right? If I'm not mistaken. 1 second. Yeah, he is in. Just want to make sure I have the geography correct, my friends. Yeah. So let's read a little bit. This is his ResearchGate page. Department of Psychoanalysis and Clinical Consulting Professor. So this guy's a clinical psychologist, right? I don't know if he's an MD. It says psychoanalysis, counseling, psychological assessment, personal assessment, psychotherapeutic processes, clinical psychology, psychopathology, personality inventory. Okay? So here, this is his profile in Ghent University. I'm passionate about subjectivity and psychic functioning in general, about psychotherapeutic and psychoanalytic practice in particular. With my research, I intend to make more tangible how the psychological level impacts on the other levels of human reality, i.e. biological, physical level, or biophysiological level. I'm particularly fascinated by how speech, for instance, during psychotherapeutic sessions, restructures subjective experiencing, and how at the same time the bodily functioning of the patients changes as well, as appears from patient speech as well as from biological data. This is basically what he does. Publications, here you go, my friends. Biblio, University of Ghent, Belgium, very good. Fantastic. Faculty of Psychology and Educational Services, Psychoanalysis and Clinical Consulting. Okay, now that we got this guy's credentials out of the way, so you guys don't poke holes or play whack-a-mole, okay? Let's take a look at what these guys are talking about. So now, Professor Desmet. I'm a professor in clinical psychology at Ghent University. I also have a master's degree in statistics, but in this crisis I've been taking the perspective of more psychology, yes indeed. In the beginning of the crisis I've been studying statistics and numbers, and I actually noticed that they were often blatantly wrong, and at the same time people continue to believe in it and to go along with the mainstream narrative. My friends, if you're doubting there's a narrative, we know there's a narrative. Okay. That was why I started to study it rather from perspective of mass psychology. Because I knew that mass formation, so he calls the thing mass formation, has a huge impact on individuals' intelligence and cognitive functioning. I had the feeling this was the only thing that could explain why highly intelligent people started to believe the narrative and the numbers that were in many aspects utterly absurd. My friends, so now he continues. He goes, okay? 4 things need to exist or need to be in place if you want a large-scale mass phenomenon to emerge. The first thing is that there needs to be a lot of socially isolated people who experience a lack of social bonds. The second one is that there needs to be a lot of people who experience a lack of sense, a lot of sense-making in life, a lot of meaning, right? And the third and fourth conditions are there needs to be a lot of free-floating anxiety and a lot of free-floating psychological discontent. So, meaning anxiety and discontent that is not connected to a specific representation. It's just anxiety, right? Just anxiety. We don't know why. So it needs to be in the mind without the people being able to connect it to something. If you have these 4 things, lack of social bonds, lack of sense-making, free-floating anxiety, and free-floating psychological discontent, then society is highly at risk for the emergence of mass phenomena. What he means by mass phenomena is he's talking about mass movements, you'll see. These 4 conditions existed shortly before the corona crisis. There was an epidemic of burnout. Over 40 to 70% of people, which is kind of a wide range, but okay, depending on the study you're looking at, experienced their jobs as completely senseless. This is described in the book Bullshit Jobs by this professor, Harvard professor, David Graeber, of whom I always forget his name. He died last year, I think. Then if you look at the use of psychopharmaceuticals, it was huge. This shows, I guess, weed, whatever, okay? How much discontent there was in our society. For instance, in Belgium, every year, 11 million people use over 300 million doses of antidepressants alone. My friends, I don't know about other countries, guys. America is hopped up on antidepressants. Guys, I'll tell you, I think I mentioned this before. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a medication management person, psychiatrist, MD, and I told him, hey man, don't you think that antidepressants, you're giving people antidepressants, you're masking the issue. The issue is a spiritual issue manifesting as something psychological or emotional. He's like, yeah man, you're absolutely right. But if we didn't do what we do, I'd be out of a job. He admitted this to me. He straight up told me this when we were on vacation. He straight up to my face. He goes, if we stop doing the way that we're doing it, treating the symptom and masking the problem, I would be out of a job as a MD, shrink, medication management person. Okay? There you go. He goes on. You have to know that free-floating anxiety is the most painful psychological phenomenon someone can experience. It's extremely painful. It leads up to panic attacks, to all kinds of extremely painful psychological experiences. What people want in this situation is something to connect their anxiety to. They're looking for an explanation for their anxiety. Why am I feeling this, my friends? Guys, I'll tell you something. Before I became Baal Tshuva, I had crazy anxiety. And then I realized why I was feeling this. My neshama was screaming out for something to connect to that was meaningful. Nothing to do with physicality. My stock market, my DJing, my traveling, my this, around the world, whatever. My friends, the more I went after those things, the more anxiety I got, because clearly my neshama was sensing, and it was sending a signal to my brain and to my insides, hey Tzvi, that ain't it. Okay? And now, if this free-floating anxiety is highly present in the population and the media provide a narrative, they fill in the blank, which indicates an object of anxiety, and at the same time describe a strategy to deal with this object. They're giving you we have a solution. Here, we have a solution. Then all the anxiety connects to this object, and people are willing to follow the strategy to deal with this object, no matter what the cost is. Or as a friend of mine told me, I just want to move on socially. Very intelligent guy, by the way, guys. I respect him in many ways. But in this particular case, he literally at one point told me, I can't. By I can't, he means I can't listen to what you're saying. I need to move on with my life. I need to live life. I can't be inundated and just drown in this issue. It seems to me that he told me that you are obsessed with this issue and I need to move on with my life. And I'm trying to explain to the guy, listen, in order to move on with your life that you think is your life, you have to physically be alive to do it. But he can't even hear that, has v'shalom, that might be a problem. Okay. This is what happens in the beginning of mass formation. Then, in a second step, people start a collective and heroic battle with this object of anxiety. In that way, a new kind of social bond emerges and a new kind of sense making. Right? Suddenly, life is all directed at battling the object of anxiety. In this way, establishing a new connection with other people. Right? So it's like, if you get this, then you have the freedom to go here, and you're connecting with these people, and the people who don't get to sit, or limited social, interaction. They get to go to a limited amount of places and connect with those people. My friends, I'll tell you something. Honestly, I've never had stronger connections than I've had with people than I've had during this whole thing. Like-minded people. Okay? Really. And I've seen who is who. Like, guys, I made videos about this. Who is who. I've seen who is like this and who is like that. And it's not a question of did you not take. It's all here and it's all here. And it's all how you behave towards others. My friends, I've seen the masks come off. People I thought were my friends, I've seen the masks come off. Okay. Suddenly life is all directed at battling the object of anxiety, in this way establishing a new connection with other people. And that, the sudden switch of a negative state, a radical lack of social connection, to the opposite, to the massive social connection that is experienced in a crowd. These people are a crowd. Yay, we're going here, we're going there, yay, we're smaxinated, right? The sudden switch leads up to a sort of mental intoxication, right? They think they're safe. That's what makes mass formation or crowd formation the exact equivalent of hypnosis. All people who have been studying mass formations, such as Gustave Le Bon, for instance, William McDougall, Elias Canetti, have remarked that mass formation is not similar to hypnosis. That mass formation is exactly equal to hypnosis. Mass formation is a sort of hypnosis, my friends. If we understand what's going on here in the sense of the policies, in the sense of the just ostracization of people and all these kind of things. One of the fundamental components of this kind of policy making, my friends, and as my friend likes to call it, bad policy, which is not bad policy, it's deliberate policy, is to hypnotize the people. If you come up to an intelligent person and you show them data and you show them facts and you show them figures and you shower them with these things and they cannot hear you, they're literally telling you, I can't hear you, I don't want to even have this discussion, they're hypnotized. Okay. What happens is at that moment when people experience mental intoxication, it doesn't matter anymore whether the narrative is correct or wrong. It's kind of like what Yuri Bezmenov says. It doesn't matter. People are demoralized, right? They're just like, you can shower them with stuff. It doesn't matter, right? Evenly blatantly wrong. What matters is that it leads up to this mental intoxication, and that's why they continue to go along with the narrative. And even if they could know by thinking for 1 second that it is wrong, that is the central mechanism of mass formation, and that makes it so difficult to destroy it, because for people it doesn't matter when the narrative is wrong. And what we try to do is we all try to show constantly that the narrative is wrong. We're going right. We're just like I'm like as my friend says, like I'm like obsessed with this, because I can't watch people just being brainwashed by media, by lying politicians, whomever. But for people, that's not what it is all about. It's all about the fact that they don't want to go back to this painful state of free-floating anxiety, my friends. In this particular case, my friend doesn't want to go back to not knowing, can he go here, can he go there for his parnasa, whatever it is. Anxiety, right? You don't know what's going to be. What's going to be? I can't go here, I can't go there, I can't take people here, I can't do this. What's going to be? Granted, he had a whole parnasa thing Baruch Hashem going on online, but whatever. That's a different discussion. Okay. What we have to realize if we want to change the state of affairs is that the first thing we have to do is acknowledge this painful anxiety. To think about why we got in the state of lack of sense-making, lack of social bonds, free-floating anxiety, the massive psychological discontent, and try to tell people, now we don't need a crisis to establish a new social bond. We have to look for other ways to deal with the psychological problems that existed before the corona crisis and try to find out other solutions. We don't need this kind of mass phenomenon to solve the problem. My friends, I was just talking about this with my friend, the brother of Dr. Z, and we were just talking about like the fact that nobody wants to get to the root of the issue. They want to mask everything, or they want to treat the symptom. They don't want to get to the root of the problem. That's where society is ailing right now. They're not getting to the root. See, he goes on to say, mass formation is actually a symptomatic solution for a real psychological problem. In my opinion, this crisis in the first place is a large societal and psychological crisis, much more than a biological crisis, let's say. From this state of mental intoxication, you can explain all the rest of the phenomenon of totalitarianism. The mental intoxication leads to a narrowing of the field of attention. It makes people only see what is indicated by the narrative. My friends, the same person, when I talk to him, he says, I'm talking to my doctor friend in this hospital where he works, and guys like our age are dying left and right. And I'm trying to tell the guy, there are treatments, there are early treatments. By the time they get to the hospital, it's already too late. Of course they're dying in front of his face. And I feel bad for the guy, and he shouldn't witness that. He shouldn't have to witness that. And I'm curious how many people he treated and back to life. Probably not that many. He feels helpless, right? And so that's one source. Another source he watches is this Z-Dog, whatever doctor, who's paid by the government. He's a government mouthpiece, narrative mouthpiece. And he says nice words, and he cajoles people, and he takes like things that are like concerns that people raise, and he addresses them, but in a kind of like, and then he just kind of like closes the, he like, it's all tightly, neatly wrapped in a bow, and in a package, right? So these are the two sources that he's not able to listen to anyone else or anything else. Narrowing of the field of attention. It makes people only see what is indicated by the narrative. For instance, people see the victims of X, Y, and Z, but they don't seem to see it at the cognitive level, the collateral damage of the lockdowns and all the victims that are claimed by the lockdowns. They are also not able, at an emotional level, to really feel empathy for the victims of the lockdowns. That is not because they are very egoistic. No, it's just an effect of the psychological phenomenon. Blinders, my friends. This, you see, it's a horse. And it's definitely, even as a consequence of mass formation, people do not get egoistic at all, but rather on the contrary. Mass formation focuses your attention so much on one point that you can take everything away from people, their psychological and physical well-being, their material well-being. You can take it away and they will not even notice it. Just like you come to people and you say, you see people are, how can you say that this is for your health if other people are losing jobs? Well, if only they just took it and they wouldn't lose their job. My friends, I mean, like, this is like, it's some sort of, you know, I don't know what name to give it. It's like it's the work of narcissists, you know. It's the work of narcissists and people with, like, I don't know, manipulators. I mean, that's the only name I can give it. That's one major consequence of mass formation. It's exactly the same as hypnosis, as classical hypnosis. When a hypnotist, during hypnosis, someone's attention is focused on one point. You can cut in his flesh, the person will not notice it. This is what happens all the time. When a hypnosis is used as a kind of anesthesia during a surgical operation, a rather simple hypnotic procedure is sufficient to make people completely insensitive to pain. You can, without any problem, cut in their flesh. Even under some circumstances, you can perform an open heart operation with which the surgeon cuts straight to the breastbone, and the patient will not notice this. That shows us the focusing of attention is so strong, both in mass formation or in hypnosis, that people are really insensitive to all the personal losses they experience as a consequence. Another consequence that is very typical for totalitarian states is that people become radically intolerant for dissonant voices. Again, the person can't hear me. They can't even hear me. If I'm telling somebody, you know, the immunity after you get you know what is 7 times stronger than the thing that when you jab yourself, and the person says, yeah, but how long does it last? Longer than the jab. Longer than what you have. And you tell them this is from studies. This is not you're not pulling it out of here. Out of you know where. It's from studies. From the lab of the world. Eretz Israel. They can't hear you. It's insanity. Insanity. Just one sec, guys. I got a call for... Here you go. Because if someone tells another story, if someone claims that the official story is wrong, then this person threatens to wake the people up, and they will get angry because they're not confronted with the initial anxiety and the initial psychological discontent. So they direct all that aggression at these dissonant voices. Hi! Hi! All the other voices, and at the same time they are radically tolerant for their leaders, for the people who pronounce the mainstream narrative. Or their friend was a doctor. These people can actually cheat and lie and manipulate and do everything they want, but they will always be forgiven by the crowd because the crowd seems to think that they do it for their own sake. I tell this guy, you know, man, what about gain of function? The same person that created this virus is now trying to sell, or created this thing, is now trying to sell you the cure for this thing. Don't you find it a little strange? He goes, I know all about the thing. I'm like, so you're not relating the two? Blank stare. Guys, if I seem like I'm going crazy, because you can go crazy, you could lose your marbles in this whole thing. You understand? It's like that guy. You ever see what's that movie? And at the end, he's screaming, "Soylent Green is made of people." That's right. I feel like that guy. I'm not the only one, probably. I know for sure I'm not the only one. For sure, I'm not the only one. Okay, we go on. That's also a part of the mechanism of mass formation. Okay. So, this is basically the thing. Oh, so he actually mentions, I mentioned many times, Hannah Arendt, Banality of Evil. Guys, you know, I want to read to you guys again. Just for good measure, and I've done this before, I'm going to read it again. Some quotes from Hannah Arendt. If you guys don't know who Hannah Arendt is, she was covering the trial of Adolf Eichmann, and she wrote a book called The Banality of Evil. The Banality of Evil was basically to demonstrate that people who are committing evil acts, at the time that they're committing them, they are just apparatchiks who are carrying out orders, and they're just doing their job, right? But at the end of the day, when these people are put on trial, they are not going to be able to give that as an excuse, right? So, but that's way later, after millions of people have died, after horrific things have happened, okay? So she wrote another book called, here, The Origins of Totalitarianism. Okay. And I'm going to read you guys some quotes from the book. Here you go. And we'll see what's going on. We'll see if anything checks out. Okay. Yeah, I'm not the only one. Baruch Hashem, I'm not the only one. Before mass leaders seize the power to fit reality to their lies, their propaganda is marked by its extreme contempt for facts as such, for in their opinion, fact depends entirely on the power of man who can fabricate it. If they have billions of dollars, if they just bought most of the farmland in America, if they're the biggest pushers of the you-know-what, before all of this, and probably one of the biggest Malthusian population control people on the planet, okay. You know what, guys, I made a whole list on my wall a few months back, and actually that list is much better than what I'm scouring the globe for. So I'm going to read that list to you. Here you go. And, okay. One second. Okay. There's a whole list. I wrote one phrase. Here you go. Okay. Inability to think is not stupidity. It could be found in highly intelligent people, and wickedness is hardly its cause. Meaning these people are not wicked, right? If only because thoughtlessness as well as stupidity are much more frequent phenomena is necessary to cause great evil. And then I wrote, fear causes death causes panic, even in highly intelligent people. Mass propaganda discovered that its audience was ready at all times to believe the worst, no matter how absurd, and did not particularly object to being deceived because it held every statement to be a lie anyhow. Meaning, if everything's a lie, you know, you come to people with data and facts, they're like, whoa, this is BS, or this has been debunked, or this is this, or this is that, or this is coming from, you know, who's the source? Before mass leaders seized the power to fit, okay, so we mentioned that. Reputable sources, yeah, media. Shmi DC, the WHO, the FADA, all these people. One of the greatest advantages of the totalitarian elites of the 20s and 30s was to turn any statement of fact into a question of motive. Oh, you're just an anti-so-and-so. Oh, here we go, another anti... Can you actually address what I'm saying instead of labeling me? No, they can't. True goal of totalitarian propaganda is not persuasion, but organization of the polity, meaning getting people together. We just spoke about this. What convinces masses are not facts, and not even invented facts, but only the consistency of the system of which they are presumably a part. Keep reporting the same headlines over and over again. No one reads the articles. They hardly even read the headlines, guys. The headline. Men have been found to resist the most powerful monarchs and to refuse to bow down before them, but few indeed have been found to resist the crowd, to stand up alone before misguided masses, to face their impracticable frenzy without weapons and with folded arms that there are no when a yes is demanded. My friends, how many of us have had people that we know, friends, family members, just tell us, come on man, why do you have to be so weird? Why can't you just be normal like the rest of us? You know, everybody wants to go back to work and back to normal. Come on, man, the science is settled. Don't you believe in science? Yeah, I believe in science. And there are studies that say other things that what the narrative is saying. They're just not being published. They're not being highlighted. The media is not talking about them. Understandably so. Okay? Totalitarian solutions may well survive the fall of totalitarian regimes in the form of strong temptations, which will come up whenever it seems impossible to alleviate political, social, or economic misery in a manner worthy of man. My friends, I'm going to read this to you again. I'm going to end off. Totalitarian solutions may well survive the fall of totalitarian regimes. If you look around, guys, ostensibly speaking, most of the regimes today in the Western world are not, they're not ruled by these Kim Jong-il types, totalitarian, classical totalitarian iron fist guy. These are technocrats, these are apparatchiks, these are elitists, my friends, okay? In the form of strong temptations which will come up whenever it seems impossible to alleviate political, social, economic misery in a manner worthy of man. So, the temptations are lockdowns, mandates, fines. Okay? And then separating people, and these people are like this, and these people are like that, these people get to go here, these people go, and then the people that are, again, as I mentioned, get to be in a group, and they get to be the special ones. As Jose Mourinho used to say, the manager, the soccer manager, I don't know, who's he managing today? Roma. He's the special one. I am the special one. Okay? My friend is writing, anyone ever heard of the photo album that was found by a GI during World War II and gave it to Remembrance Center in Israel? The photos are of the people that ran the places, where the death happened. People were surprised by how normal they looked, my friends. Again, I'm a person who watches specials about these things. Some of these specials, they show just outside of these places of death were regular like towns. They built like towns, and you could see families sitting, people who worked at these places sitting with their kids, and there's like little playgrounds, and there's like barbecues, and there are people playing guitar and having. It looks like a suburb. It looks like any suburb in Germany or wherever, Poland, wherever it was, my friends. And literally, you could only it's like the starkest contrast, because you have like small town. It would look like small town USA or small town Germany, and right next door, my friends, is the entrance of Gehenna. My friends, right now in Australia, they are building these places. I think they already built some of them. Okay, and they're going to say, yeah, people get temporarily sent over there, and then once everything blows over, everyone will go back to everything will go back to normal. My friends, today in Austria, right? Austria. We know who came from Austria. People today, 12 and over, who didn't cannot leave their house unless it's for special, to get food or to go to work. My friends, ask any of your relatives, or any people that who have relatives who were in the ghettos in the 30s. It wasn't in the 30s. It was in the 1940, I think, 1941. In the ghettos, you can't go here, you can't go there. You can only leave your house for this reason. And even in the 30s, they had these lockdowns. My friends, what I recommend is that you guys should go. You can find her on YouTube. Go listen to a woman by the name of Vera Sharav. Vera. Her last name is Sharav. Vera Sharav. She's a Holocaust survivor. She is a atrocity survivor. And she's basically talking about what's happening now. And she's giving people a warning. Her videos, unfortunately, because of what she's saying, were sent, they were kind of basically marginalized into Rumble and into BitChute, those kind of websites. But you can still find her stuff on YouTube, abundantly, guys. I highly recommend that you guys go listen to her. I highly recommend this. And for those of you guys who heard any part of this or all of it and you're offended, honestly, first of all, I don't give a damn. Second of all, good. I want you to be offended. I want you to be awake. I want you to do the research of what I'm talking about. I want you to go on History Channel and Discovery Channel and wherever else you can go and watch special after special after special, like me, like an obsessed dork, about this event in human history, how it led up to this. It took 10 years, 15 years, propaganda, books that were written by the person you know who, okay, Mind Something, propaganda by a guy named Gerbils, mass hypnosis, speeches, 10 years, my friends, 15 years, chipping away and chipping away and chipping away and chipping away, and then finally they were able to get enough people on their side to hypnotize enough people to rat out their neighbors who were turned into the enemy or the disease or whatever it was, and then finally the last thing was already these Gehenna places with the smokestacks and all the rest of it, and the Zyklon B. Okay, guys, that's already the final, like they said, the solution. That's already the final step, guys. But there's a whole 15-year trajectory that led up to this. Right now, guys, we're in 2021. We may as well be in 1921 or 1931, depending on how, what stage you're looking at here. Guys, you want to be offended? In the words of Cat Williams, the comedian, boo-boo, feel free to hate on me, boo-boo. You looking for something to hate? Feel free to hate on me. Guys, you hating on me, you being offended at me, you telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, is not going to change reality. It's not going to change reality. Now you're asking a question, where does Israel fit into this with the new prime minister approving this and this and that? My friends, unfortunately, Israel is ruled by the Erev Rav. 75% of the Knesset is ruled by the Erev Rav. Amalek, which is basically the force that we're dealing with again here, for hopefully the last time before Mashiach comes, is part of the Erev Rav. They're essentially part of the same tribe, as so to speak. So, my friends, basically what we have here is 75% of the Knesset is in cahoots with Amalek, and they are, or the Erev Rav, and they're giving Amalek the ammunition to do what it's going to do what it does. My friends, again, like I said many times, the world follows Israel. Whatever policy Israel goes forth with, the world follows us. But the thing is, they have a 2 or 3 month delay, and whenever they do stuff, they take it to the next level. Israel has an element of, there's tempered. It's called rachamim, the mercy of Hashem, hashgacha, of Hashem. The rest of the world, guys, you go to Australia, look at what's going on over there. Go to Canada, even here, certain parts in America. Okay, Baruch Hashem, it's not all parts, because many people here follow either the laws of Noach or the laws of, or essentially the Tanakh, the evangelical Christians, whomever. But guys, they follow us, and they go 2 or 3 months. Israel already now doesn't have these policies anymore, supposedly. Now they're moving out to kids. All right, we don't have the lockdowns anymore. We don't have this, that, and the other. But we're moving on to kids. Now and then after the kids, they're going to move on to infants, my friends. They're going to move on to infants, and that is when we're going to see. I was always asking the question. I don't understand, how is it that people in antiquity could go and worship, bow down to idols, my friends, and give their kids to this Malach or whatever they gave the kids to. My friends, believe it, because it's happening. We're witnessing it. We're looking at it. Okay? Anyway, guys, again, if you're offended, good, I guess. Feel free to hate on me. That's basically it, guys. That's basically it. At this point, guys, Hanukkah's coming up, and frankly, if I was us, I would just be davening for a miracle at this point. I mean, there are things coming out, whatever it is, information, certain things, the media is still not covering it. My friends, there's going to come a breaking point in society, in global society, really. And the question is, when is the shoe going to drop? The other shoe. At some point some's got to give here, guys. Some's got to give, because these people will only continue as long as we let them continue. Right now they just had a court decision here in the States that basically said that these mandates from the top are not constitutional. They are not legal. There's nothing legally binding there. These are just words coming out of a man who can barely form them. Okay? my friends. That means that none of this has any standing. That means that if we say no, F you, that's it. Everything swims away. But we have to wake up and we have to pick up our balls. Guys, speaking of anxiety, I think a lot of us who are fighting against this also have our own version of anxiety. We have to pick up our balls off the floor, okay, and just do what we gotta do. I don't mean violence. I just mean just saying, no, sorry, this has no legal standing. You want to fire me? I'm taking you to court. I mean, not that I want to work for your company anyway, but I'm taking you to court for punitive damages, and I'm taking you to court for, all kinds of severance pay and all these other things, my friends. That's it. This goes on. This goes on as long as it's allowed. And one other thing, guys, if you're wondering why in a place like Australia they were able to go extreme, my friends, because they took away people's weapons. For those of you screaming about this and that and the other, with weapons, guys, governments love when their citizens are not armed. They love it. They love it. That's how they were able to do that in the 20s and in the 30s, back what they did back then. They disarmed people. That's how the Soviet Union was able to do, to some extent, what it did to its citizens, my friends. Okay? That's basically it, guys. That is basically it. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. Alright, guys. That's enough of that, and I'll talk to you soon.